Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you could see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing a lovely early 2000s IWC Pilot's Watch Mark 15. This is the reference 3253-01. 38 millimeters in stainless steel. You can see this watch wears easily on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and it is flat, only 10.5 millimeters thick. This one sits limpet-like and low, compatible with any tight sleeve or dress cuff. Now the spacing between the lugs is 19 millimeters, so a little bit of a flash of vintage proportioning on this watch. It was designed in the 90s. The first model year was 1999, the last model year was 2005, and you'll see a couple of vintage flourishes on this watch, but this one was made a little bit later in the production run because it features a luminova rather than tritium dial. The timepiece is graceful and gorgeous, old school IWC design that sits easy on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters circumference. In my estimation, this is a good watch for a smaller male wrist. Now jumping in a little bit closer, refinement I would not have expected on the equivalent Mark 18 today. A full deployant clasp, nicely executed. You can see with polished bevels and satin finished facing and satin finished top. It gets even more nostalgic inside, where you can see the old school International Watch Co. logo on a sandblasted base inside a polished clasp. Security against droppage at your desk, at your nightstand, yes. Donning or removing in the morning. Removing, I have to say, I've dropped watches before. They've been mine, never company watches, but it is nice to have the deployant clasp. It's also worth mentioning that the timepiece is nicely matched to a calfskin strap, which is aviator style, but not cliche aviator style, as IWC equipped a monotone stitch rather than a contrasting stitch. Folded edge, calfskin, unbolstered. It's substantial, it's luxurious, but it's also relatively spare. It's not an embellishment. It matches the watch, which, as you can see, is principally of satin finish. Now the satin is just about everywhere except the polished lip of the lugs, where there's a little bit of a swelling bevel down the edge, and that's a feature of IWC Pilot's watches from the Mark series to the chronographs right up to the big Pilots. I mentioned there would be some vintage flourishes. You saw the first one in the interior of the clasp, and here's an old school IWC fish style crown before the Probus crown. Now these aren't as commonly replaced on the Mark series watches as they are on the somewhat genetically defective big Pilots, but you do see them replaced on the Mark watches. If a crown needs to be replaced, it happens. So it's nice to see one that still includes the original factory equipment from back in the day. The case band is all of satin finish and quite slender. The bezel is stepped in somewhat from the case band, which gives the watch a little bit of a stacked and tiered appearance. Rather than appearing rather thick, it appears nicely progressive in its retreat from the case band to the crystal. You can see there's a satin finish that starts conical and then becomes flat, and the dial is essentially an instrument style dial as we've seen on the Mark series since the original Mark 11 of the 1940s, and it's no nonsense matte base to discourage glare and white on black printing. Easy to read, intuitive, and visible day or night. Now I should mention the watch features a screw down crown. I talked a little bit about that fish crown. I didn't mention that it's a screw down crown. And in conjunction with the screwed in case back, the watch is surface swimmable. I wouldn't necessarily take this one diving, and I probably wouldn't test its limits falling off a jet ski at speed, but this is a solidly swimmable watch with screw down crown and screwed in case back and the 60 meter rating. Now underneath that case back, which reminds you the watch is both automatic and the Pilot's watch, you can see slender in profile because an IWC modified ETA 2892A2 is inside the case, and that is a very slim automatic bidirectional winding, 42-hour power reserve, stop seconds, and a quick set date, 21 joules. It beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, so it's what is commonly described as a modern or a high beat movement. The thing about these older IWC Mark series though, 98 to 2005, that was for the most part still the era when IWC was able to receive kits from ETA as opposed to fully assembled movements. When IWC received the kits, it would do a great deal to modify everything from the power source to the regulator and the hairsprings themselves. Those kits were heavily modified and then regulated, and these watches are renowned for their quality of timekeeping as well as their toughness. A lovely and old school IWC Mark, 38 millimeters in stainless steel. This is the Mark 15. See it and make it yours on the watch box. IWC Mark 15 Luminova dial.